anxiety is the dizziness of freedom. That having the freedom to make choices, to choose what kind of life you're going to live, that you're no longer on a set path. You don't know what the outcome is going to be. There's no set path for you to follow. You're making it up as you go along, and this creates a lot of anxiety. As much as we love choice, it comes paired with anxiety, and we're making far more choices now than ever before.
Hi, I'm Tamara, and this is TELUS Talks with Tamara Taggart. Why does life feel so overwhelming, even when things are going well on paper? Stephen Heine is a social and cultural psychologist who argues that humans are experiencing a modern crisis of meaning. This week, we talk about why so many of us feel anxious, stuck, or lost in today's world, the pressure of endless choices, and how we can find clarity in the chaos. I hope you enjoy the conversation. This podcast is brought to you by TELUS Smart Home Security. Secure, simplify, and easily monitor your home from anywhere using the Smart Home Security app. Visit TELUS.com/smarthome-security to learn more about Canada's most trusted security provider. Hi, Stephen. It's great to see you.
Hi, Tamara. Thanks a lot for having me on.
So you're at UBC. You're a professor of social and cultural psychology.
That's right.
What does that mean?
Yeah. So, well, there are two fields that are somewhat related. So the cultural psychology, I'll start off first. A lot of my research has explored how the ways that we think are shaped by the cultures that we grow up in. And psychology's come to realize this, that, we're all like cultural creatures, that we all grow up in this context around us that shapes how we think, shapes how we understand ourselves. And so that's one thing that I do. The other thing that I do as a social psychologist, I'm interested in how people come to understand the social world, and how we relate to others, and how we come to understand others, and how we come to understand ourselves.
So you have a new book. The new book is called Start Making Sense. Yes, there you have it right there. I love the cover. How existential psychology can help us build meaning in absurd times. I feel like did you know we were in absurd times and then you wrote this book, or have we always been in absurd times?
Well, I started this book during the pandemic, during the lockdown, and I thought we were at peak absurdity then. I've come to revise that assessment. It's only got more absurd. But I'm an optimist, and I do think this absurdity will come to make sense at some point soon.
I'm an optimist too. I think that I was thinking about talking to you and thinking about how, we do feel anxiety at certain times of our life, and we do feel lost or lonely, or like, wow, the world is crazy. Like I can remember my grandparents talking about things, and then my parents talking about things, and now here I am talking about things. Is this normal?
Well, I mean, there's always a certain degree of uncertainty in the world, but it has peaked much higher in recent years. Actually, this is something economists have tracked, just how much uncertainty there is in the world based on how much it appears in the news. And over the last 25 years, it's been a steady increase up. It did actually peak in the pandemic, but it's returning up again in just the past few months. So yeah, this is especially unusually uncertain and chaotic times.
So my next question about that is that only because we know more?
No, I think there just are times that are uncertain. So one thing I do in my book a lot is try to situate the current times by comparing it with another chaotic, uncertain times. And that was in the middle of the 20th century. And that was just right after the world had gone through the worst economic crisis in modern history, then the most destructive war in history, and then for the first time faced a nuclear Armageddon where humanity faced extinction. And that period was called the Age of Anxiety. That's what at least W.H. Auden, existential poet, called it. And I think that's a very apt title for what we're going through right now again. That right now, so many things to make sense. We're facing uncertainty in so many ways, and and it's something that's very difficult to prepare for and to make sense of.
Because and it's such a different time than what you just referred to. I mean, we're more connected now, yet we seem to be lonelier. We, you know, we I feel like with the pandemic, a lot of us stayed home and we never got back to regular programming, if you will, after it. Is there a connection with that anxiety and that sort of, crisis feeling and not like we've never, I don't know, like I feel there's just so much loneliness, yet we're all so connected.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the way we're connected now is we're connected through through the internet, through digital technologies. But I think in many other ways we're far more disconnected than we have been in modern history. So you were just talking about how lonely people are now, and yes, just 2 years ago, U.S. Surgeon General declared an epidemic of loneliness, and that people have fewer friends to turn to. They have smaller families than they used to. They don't know their neighbors the way they used to. So we're losing these important interpersonal connections. We're not as connected with communities. People used to belong to, like sports leagues, and they would belong to the PTA, or they would belong to like a service club like Rotaries or Lions clubs. And those have largely been on the decline. And people also, important source of connections is with our work. And the nature of work has changed for many people now, that it's somewhat of a gig economy, that people sort of cobble together a number of side hustles, and people are changing jobs more than ever before. And I think a last key source of connection that's been undermined is a connection to the transcendent, that spiritual connections, that the world is becoming far more secular than before. And all of these kinds of connections, I think, are really quite important, because all of them contribute to our sense that our life is meaningful. That a well-connected life is a meaningful life. And we've been going through this time where we're becoming more and more disconnected. And I think this is one reason why things feel as anxious as they do these days.
So what about kids, youth, students, young adults? Because I mean, I just feel like it's probably so different now than when you and I were in high school and you and I were in, university or college. It's very different now.
Yeah. Well, I think a big part of the issues with youth, and youth really are struggling. Their anxiety levels have hit new highs that we've never seen before. And I think there are multiple reasons behind this. Just the political world has changed, the economic world has changed. I think Jonathan Haidt, he's another social psychologist who argues that it's our smartphones and social media that have changed the environment that youth are growing up in. That they used to grow up with real interpersonal networks, that you could go see your friends and then you could leave your friends. And now just that they can be wired at all times. And if you're struggling, if you're being bullied, if you're having any kind of difficulty, it's just omnipresent. It's always there. And then you're not just comparing yourself to this small group of friends that you have, but on Instagram or other social media, you're comparing yourself to, the most attractive people in the world who have curated what looks like the most fascinating lives in the world. And everyone's looks so sad in comparison.
Would you agree that, when you allow yourself to be creative, whatever that looks like for yourself, it probably helps with any anxiety you might be feeling about who you are or where you're going or what you're doing? Because I think we all have those feelings of, why am I here? Who am I?
Yeah, no, I think creative moments are very immersive, and so they sort of captivate our attention. And I think, yeah, they're extraordinarily important to us, to help us to not just be drifting aimlessly, but to giving ourselves feel engaged with a task, feeling a sense of purpose, feeling that what we're doing matters. These are all sort of really important aspects to feeling that life is meaningful and that what you're doing, is somehow making a contribution, that you're connected with others, and that you are engaged with the world and making a difference with the world. These are very important thoughts that people can entertain.
Do you find, like in your work, that people are wondering more than ever, who they are?
Yeah, so this is, I think, another sort of big aspect of meaning in life is our sense of identity, and I think our sense of identity has been getting more and more challenging for quite some time. And I think one reason behind this is the world is a more complex place than it was before. That there's just so many more niches that one could occupy, that we're exposed to just so many different aspects of things. But also that we are in a position here where we feel that we are supposed to, choose. Well, we celebrate our freedom to choose, which is great, but that also puts a lot of pressure on us to find out, well, how can I choose to lead the most attractive lifestyle that I'm pursuing? And I think we don't really realize just how much our choices are paired with anxiety, because although it's great that we do have the freedom to choose, what we want to do in so many aspects of our life, that means that we're responsible, though, for the kinds of lives that we end up being, that we chose them. And one of the existentialist philosophers, Soren Kierkegaard, he argued that anxiety is the dizziness of freedom. That having the freedom to make choices, to choose what kind of life you're going to live, that you're no longer on a set path. You don't know what the outcome is going to be. There's no set path for you to follow. You're making it up as you go along, and this creates a lot of anxiety. As much as we love choice, it comes paired with anxiety, and we're making far more choices now than ever before. That, I mean, people have always, there's some key things we have to figure out in life. For one, you have to find a career. Well, I mean, if you go back far enough in history, you find that people used to largely inherit their careers. That daughters would do what their mothers did, sons would usually do what their fathers did. People's surnames like Miller and Smith sort of, indicated that you're kind of born into a career. And now there's so many different career options that we need to figure out. Arranged marriages used to be common in the Western world. They're common in many other parts of the world today. But now people are, and even after people started choosing their own partners, they used to choose them from a small social network that they're in. Now we have on these apps, you have thousands of potential partners to choose from, and somehow you're supposed to get it right. And people used to largely be born into a religion and a system of beliefs, and they often weren't exposed to that many other alternative views. But now the fastest growing of belief is something called spiritual but not religious, where people are kind of taking a buffet approach to the hereafter, and saying, well, I'll kind of do a little bit of that Zen meditation over there, maybe some pagan rituals over here, some crystals, I'll take those. Maybe I'll do some yoga, and putting together this the spiritual view that they piece together, that, the responsibility that we have is now extends to the hereafter, making, we're responsible for the cosmic dimensions that we're in. And so we celebrate these choices, but I do think that we don't appreciate just how much anxiety comes with the responsibility for charting your own course.
I never thought of it that way. That more choice makes you more anxious, and of course it would. There's so many choices. Everything, yeah.
I think a good way to see just how choice is linked with anxiety is my daughter is adolescent, 13 years old, going through some rather challenging times, and this is something we expect. Adolescence, yeah, that's a difficult, anxious time, and we often attribute it to hormones. But if you look around the world, adolescence isn't the same problem everywhere. And in most small-scale societies around the world, more traditional subsistence societies, people there don't expect adolescence to be a difficult time. Where it's most difficult is in Western industrialized, highly individualistic societies where you have so many different choices to make. You need to figure out the person you're going to be. You have to figure that out. And that's a lot. That's a lot. It doesn't help too that it happens at a time when hormones are raging, that making it that much more challenging. But yeah, we have this emphasis on, your life is whatever you choose it to be. It's up to you to figure it out. And as exciting as that is, that creates a lot of pressure. Well, how can I get this right?
Yeah, well, one of my kids is 14, and she has to, choose her classes for next year. And it's like, well, if you want to go into this stream in university, you need to pick these ones. If you need to, she goes, I don't know what I want to do. I said, oh, you don't need to know what you want to do. That's my attitude, right? I'm like as long as you're happy, that's how I always talk, right? I don't care what, you can. And she goes, no, but I have to make these choices now, so that I can, and I don't know and I just like, wow, I don't ever recall. I mean, I was a very different student than my kids are, but I don't ever recall thinking I have to make these big decisions right now. But yeah, that's so fascinating because I think that we, Western, in the West, we do put these pressures on kids at a very young age. You're going to take violin lessons and you're going to take piano lessons and singing lessons and you're going to do this sport and that sport and you're going to do this and you're going to read by this age and all of these things.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, we're having all these standards, implicit standards that our kids can see of what they're supposed to do, with the implicit understanding that if they're falling short of that's a problem. And that there's so many different things that we're saying that you're supposed to do, and encouraging at the same time that you need to figure this out, that we want to give them give them their individuality, right? And encourage them to make these life choices. And I think in general, it's great. I don't mean to be saying we should take away these choices, but just be aware that this is, I think, contributing to the anxiety that's out there.
Yeah. And I can see that, right? Even, when we were younger, it was like, what are you going to do when you grow up? Like, what do you want to be when you grow up? We ask that of people all the time. And we ask people, I notice too, when we see them at a party or somewhere, oh, so where are you working these days? Or what are you doing these days? And there feels like pressure to be able to answer that in a way that is acceptable, right? Instead of just saying, oh, well, I spend most days in my garden and I cook for my family and you know what I mean? Whatever it might be. We have this idea maybe that we have to be of a certain level. And I think that having a phone or a computer in our hand, and again, scanning and seeing how great everybody in the world is living.
Yeah, no, it's, I think, making just that much harder. Over the course of human history, we evolved to live in fairly small groups. That's the context that our brain is prepared to handle, and that we're able to make sense of. And now we're with our devices, we're connected literally with the whole world, right? And yeah, that adds a lot of new challenges too.
Yeah. Well, we don't even know those people though.
That's right. That's right. And so you should just be ignoring them. But the problem is their lives look so attractive and you find them so fascinating. And then just noticing how much our own life.
Yeah. Well, they have a perfect kitchen. And if I had that perfect kitchen, then my life would be, well, it'd be perfect. And if I, could do yoga for that long, I would look like that too, or whatever it might be. It's so funny how we do that. One of the things that we like to do on the podcast is ask our guests to choose a Canadian nonprofit, a registered Canadian nonprofit. You chose Best Buddies. I love Best Buddies. They do great work. And I wanted to let you know that we will make a donation to Best Buddies in your name as a thank you for you being here. So thank you. Thank you for choosing them. I read the news all the time. I'm a news junkie. I want to know, but it doesn't make me feel safe sometimes.
Yeah. I do think that the news is at a point we maybe never seen in our own lifetimes before, right? It's just a very chaotic thing. I personally unplugged somewhat. I was a news junkie too, and I'm realizing it's just not doing me any good at all. When I watch it, I feel worse. I can't do anything about these issues. I mean, now that Canada's been pulled into it, I'm getting back to following situation that's relevant for Canada. Just that I feel I can't really avoid it so much. But I do think, yeah, that with all that's happening in the world, if you're trying to if that's going to be part of your daily conscious experience, is focusing on all these challenges, it's going to be difficult. I think that sometimes that, well, we're at a time that we maybe should make more efforts here to structure our experience and the information that we're getting in such a way that we're not always focusing on what just seems like an unexplainable catastrophe where everything just seems so like trains going off the rails.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think there's for me, it's the fine line of being informed and then being like completely overdosing on news and information. Because it's one thing to read, to read the papers that you read or whatever digitally or however you read them. But I mean, it was to the point where I was like listening to the news in my car and then, watching like some news channel and then reading it. And then the worst thing of all, scrolling it on Twitter, which is like it used to be not a bad place to get like breaking news, but now it's, and I think that that's what some of us can't sort out.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, this is advice that I haven't been able to take myself yet, but I do think getting off of social media completely. Every time I'm on, I'm in a worse mood afterwards, and it's this weird thing where I find it so curious that my temptation is always to go on, like I maybe it's because I'm bored right now. It's what I want to see what's going on, and then I feel worse about it. But somehow it still is reinforcing, because maybe there's one little nugget that's interesting in there, buried between all this catastrophe. So yeah, I think just.
You know what? It makes me feel better to know that you also have the same struggle, because it's a very real thing. You have a book to sell. And so it's like when you think about, we're here and we're talking about you and your work and where we're at as, a community, but you also have a book. And so social media comes in handy when you have a book and you want to tell people about it, right? And so it's such interesting times, I think. And again, it goes back to, how do we build meaning when we are in these crazy times? And like other absurd times in our history, will we jump out of this absurd time?
Yeah. Oh, I think we will. And I do think, like, feeling that life is meaningful is something that's very important. It predicts psychological well-being. It predicts better physical health. So it is a mindset that is important to have. And I think what's encouraging is that it is something that's somewhat under our control, that we can try to build a more meaningful life. As I was saying earlier, that the important things underlying a meaningful life is feeling these sorts of connections. So we can make efforts to improve our connections with others. So, for example, one kind of interpersonal relationship that is especially conducive to feeling that life is more meaningful is when we take on a caretaker role. So that when we are taking care of the elderly, taking care of our children, taking care of our pets, when we're in that responsibility, we have those kinds of responsibilities, we feel that our existence matters. This is a very important aspect of feeling we have a meaningful life. And we also have a sense of purpose. So I think we can, make some efforts to spend time with our closest relationships, especially ones where we take on this caretaker role. Also, I think, belonging to community is very important. And so I think one thing that people can do too is to volunteer for any kinds of communities that have that a cause that you believe in. And this also predicts a significant boost in meaning in life. Again, it gives you some purpose. Now I'm doing this like for whatever cause it is that you're committed to, and also a sense of identity with this new community and with new relationships. So I think these are some examples of some ways that we can make our lives more connected, and it's these connections here that really can help build more meaningful lives.
Yeah, I love that. And that makes me feel hopeful because, like you said, that's in our control. Those are all things that we can control. And sometimes I think we need to remember, when we're maybe watching too much news or scrolling too much, it's like, I can control this right now. I can just put my phone down and call a friend and go for a walk or a coffee, or pick up the phone and talk to someone. Imagine that instead of texting them.
Yeah, no. So though I think those we can work towards building these sort of key foundations of meaning, but I think there's some sort of short-term fixes that we can engage in too. That one thing with our feelings of meaning in life is they fluctuate. It's not a constant, and sometimes we'll have those times where we're feeling a little lonely, we're feeling a little alienated, disconnected. And there's some simple things that do provide people with much of a boost. Something as trivial as engaging in nostalgic reflections, like flipping through an old photo album, listening to a soundtrack of your youth. That when we look back at early chapters of our life stories, we have a better sense of the kind of person we've become and the journey that we've been on. And people report feeling that their lives more meaningful and more engaged after doing that. So that's something I think that to keep in mind when you're just having those sort of down moments. That's one thing that can help us to feel more connected. Going out into nature is another thing that can be really provide a well-being boost. And that's something that's easy to do. Mindfulness meditation, actually any kind of spiritual quest that sort of fits in with your worldview, engaging in those activities, I think provide a nice boost to meaning. And one other exercise that's often done in psychology studies is to have people reflect on what are their most important values. What are the things that you stand for, that you think are really important? And curiously, after doing that for quite some period afterwards, people have this better sense of, again, who they are, what is their sense of purpose, and this actually makes it easier to deal with many of the other kinds of anxieties that we experience in life. So those are just a few kinds of concrete things that people can do.
Great advice. Okay, can you hold up your book one more time? Your new book is called Start Making Sense: How Existential Psychology Can Help Us Build Meaning in Absurd Times. Thank you so much, Stephen. People can find you at Stephen Heine 4, the number 4, and it's Heine. Stephen, thank you so much. It was great.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. It's a lot of fun.
Thanks for listening to another episode of TELUS Talks with Tamara Taggart. Be sure to subscribe so you can join us every Tuesday for another conversation. You can also check out our website, telus.com/podcast, and subscribe to our YouTube channel at